immediately after the announcement happened, the Daily Beast spoke to a Taliban militant who pledged that they would turn the final few months into a total nightmare, not just for U.S. troops, but for just Afghan citizens. So it's a scary situation for a lot of people. And, the fact that the Taliban has now announced that they just won't be participating in any peace talks kind of killed that, one glimmer of hope for peace. And, the U.S. proposal for a power-sharing interim government hasn't gone over well either. So the fact is that this does leave Afghanistan in a very vulnerable position.
Was there any other option, Catherine Field?
For Joe Biden? Absolutely not. No, I mean, he really, if he goes forward, they're not going to achieve anything more. If he leaves his troops there, there are just going to be more deaths. I mean, the whole region has changed considerably since they went in just after 9/11. You've got bigger players in the area. You've still got uncertainty in the tribal areas, particularly in Pakistan. You've got instability within Afghanistan, outside the major centres. You've got the Taliban pretty much in control of lots of swathes of the countryside. He really couldn't go forward. And now you've got also to deal with China and Russia on this whole issue of what happens to Afghanistan. I think probably, unfortunately, what we're going to be looking at is we're going to look at a swathe of countries from Afghanistan through to Iraq, through to Syria, through to Libya, that will just be in some sort of permanent state of unrest or civil war. And I think Afghanistan's heading down that road.
I need not go as far as Libya. What a U.S.-led NATO withdrawal means for Afghanistan's immediate neighbors is an open question. Pakistan has been speaking to both sides. We can show you an image from Islamabad last December of Pakistan's foreign minister, Shah Mahmood Qureshi, meeting with Taliban representative Mullah Abdul Hani Baradar. Is this put Judah Grunstein, Pakistan, in a position of strength since they already dialogue with the Taliban, or weakness because they might have a lot of refugees headed their way?
I think it's a mixed bag for everyone in the region. I think that what we have is a very obvious, clear, definitive failure of this American vision of a remade Afghanistan that could be integrated into a regional economy that's connected, obviously. The problem is that a return to Afghanistan as basically a civil war with participation by all its neighboring states, or much more overt case of that, puts everyone back in the situation they were in before. And Pakistan certainly has connections with the Taliban. They certainly will have, maybe in a zero-sum competition of influence within Afghanistan, they might have some advantage, but they lose out on opportunity costs in terms of this connectivity, economic connectivity, which would mean a lot for them. In terms of gas from Central Asia that they could use to overcome some of their shortfalls in terms of power generation, things like that. I think, too, one thought, though, in terms of Biden and whether or not he had other options, I think it's important to remember that he's operating under an artificial deadline that was set by the Trump administration in the preliminary agreement with the Taliban, which was May 11th rather than September 11th. And the reason why he really has no other option is because in preparation of that May 11th drawdown, the U.S. has already drawn down its forces to a real bare minimums training and support operation. In reality, it's not that expensive, and there's not really that much risk to American soldiers' lives because of the reduction in hostilities during the peace talks. The problem is that if it does return to a much more higher level of violence, if Biden had decided not to withdraw American forces, at that point he would have been required really to put back in American troops. About 10 to 12,000 was the real minimum level to achieve a sort of standoff impasse where no one could really gain or lose territory. So his choice wasn't really whether to stay or to leave. his choice was whether to honor an agreement that had been made by the previous administration to continue a drawdown that was already really in its final stages, or reverse course and put back in 10,000 troops into Afghanistan. And that, I think, is something that no American president at this point could really justify doing.